Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Liezel joining us here again, our teen life coach, better known as, well, myteenlifecoach.com. She could be yours and your family's. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jill. I can feel fall coming. Can you feel it?
I do. And I actually was upstate this weekend in New York. So the fall foliage is starting to turn a little bit too. So I got to actually see it with my own eyes. So it felt good.
Yeah, I think we can all do with a little bit of the break in that hot weather.
Yes. How have you been? How's everything?
Good. Everything's good. Life is busy. Kids are at school. How did your coaching homework go with the kiddos
It's
this last
it's
week?
going well, but do you know why? Because I had my uncle stay over twice, and my son wanted to sleep on the couch downstairs and be cool with him.
Yeah.
Progress, little progress. They both did in the room. I've and the one night I did get up. I went to bed with them. I got up and I had my own space. They didn't get up one night, so it's been process. Like 3 days we slept together. Then the other two I had my uncle stay over,
Yeah.
and so it's progress. And now they just went away upstate with my uncle. So they they're on their own. Well, they'll maybe sleep
Yeah,
with my
yeah,
aunt,
yeah.
but yeah. So thank you.
I love that. I love that. And it's interesting because you inspired me to talk about this week. Because when I saw last week how your mindset changed and you were like, huh, okay, if I can energetically make that shift, they'll feel it. So good job. Yeah.
Yes. And the discussion, the discussion part's the funniest because there's really to talk to them. It's like, so, how come you do want to sleep with mommy? And I try changing my tone and try being, but I'm scared. We're scared. And I'm like, but don't be scared. It's fine. And we have our bear, we have our blanket, so it's so funny hearing me talk like that, but I felt like I was you trying to talk to them about it. So thank you.
That's awesome. But that last week actually got me thinking about just being self-aware. And so you inspired me to talk about the self-aware parent creating the self-aware teenager or child, right? So I wanted to just dig a little bit deeper into that today, make it a little bit more practical from that step perspective, like what we were talking about last week. Like, what's the steps? Like, how do I, actually go into that? So I thought maybe we could chat about that today.
Let's do it. And let's remind everyone, myteenlifecoach.com. Yay. We're here with Liezel. Reach out to her. Let's get started.
Okay. So I am always reminded every day. In fact, yesterday was a big day. About how your continuous work, whether you are a professional, a parent, a athlete, how that self-reflection and self-awareness piece is a continuously important part of your life. And when we get so busy, we forget that that's really this such a strong foundation block, and we don't always make time for it. So I was watching, the news with Serena Williams and how they were interviewing her after her tennis match, and how she was talking about, I'm not retiring, I'm evolving, right? And so we're evolving continuously as human beings. And so even for the best of those, they have to have those humble moments of really looking inside and understanding why their actions are a result of their thinking. So here's a thought. It's complex, but we're going to break it down. Consider for a minute. So if you were a parent and I was coaching you this week, right? Which I think I'm kind of doing anyway by default because you're such a great student. I can see you taking notes whenever I'm talking and stuff.
Thank you.
So if anybody who's listening, if they write the word down, thinking influences my feelings, right? I think, so then I feel.
Okay.
And then when I feel, I start to behave or be motivated a certain way. And then when I behave or I'm motivated a certain way, that's going to influence the results, like what actually ends up happening. So thinking for a teenager and for us as adults is, who am I? If I'm trying to think of who am I, I'm trying to be self-aware. Who am I? What do I want? Just those two questions, right? So those are the thinking parts. That's the I am thinking part. Then you start to think about well, what are my values and what do I believe and how do I feel about who I am and what I want? And that can go two ways, right? It can either be a yucky feeling or it can be a good feeling. And then, depending on what those feelings end up resulting, it starts to motivate you and it affects your body a certain way. So it's really complex, but it's really simple. And then when that happens and you start to think and feel about it, your energy will shift either way. And then you're going to act accordingly. So in the coaching framework, when I'm working with teenagers and parents, we call that the self-fulfilling prophecy, because your actions, or what you believe in terms of who you are, what you want, and how you feel about it, is ultimately going to affect how you believe in yourself, what you think you can and can't do, and what you think you deserve.
Oh.
So then the dialogue in your brain becomes, well, what do I believe I can and can't do? What can I or can't I do about it, the feelings? What will I or will I not accept as a result of my feelings? So I decided to take on two examples of a parent coaching that I did this last week to try to really identify. So if anybody who's listening, if they just write down these four words directly underneath each other: thought, feeling, physical, motivation, behavior, results, right?
Yeah.
So the thought, then the feeling, how you feel in your physical body, what your motivation levels are, how you end up behaving, and what the results are. So I was talking to a parent who was, obviously parents have challenges with their teenagers. And I said, well, what are you thinking right now? And this mom said, I feel inadequate as a parent.
Yeah.
I just feel inadequate. And so she obviously explained a little bit why she felt inadequate, etc. And then the next question obviously was, well, how do you feel about feeling inadequate as a parent? Well, I feel overwhelmed. I feel stressed. I feel hopeless. Just all of those feelings of like, I'm not good enough, right? So now you're starting to see belief in self is starting to wane.
Mm-hmm.
So then my next question to her is, well, how are you feeling in your physical body? And so she's like, well, like I'm short of breath. I feel like I have a short temper. I'm avoiding things. So like I feel on edge all the time. And then I asked her, well, how does that affect your motivation? And so immediately she was like, I can't afford not to be motivated. So I end up going the other way. I become like hyper vigilant about getting it right, and controlling it. It's like, I got to push through. I've got to push through kind of thing. Right. And so then I said, well, then what happens? So you're motivated by that, but then how do you end up acting? And that's hard because this is
Yeah.
like deep work. This is not work that's, this is the part of self-care that I say is the least sexy part of self-care, is doing this kind of stuff, but it is the most important part of self-care. So her behavior, she says, well, I end up shouting, and I'm over directive, and I'm very prescriptive. I don't ask anybody's opinions. It's my way or the highway. And then just the whole nervous system of the house goes up, right?
Yeah.
And what ends up resulting in, she goes, I just have it's a stressed family system. I feel like there's just stress all around. And then I feel guilty also because I feel like sometimes I'm the start of it, but it's because I'm reacting to all the other stuff. So then we took it one step further, and I said, well, let's take this down now and now talk about your teenager. This is a young teenager. So this is a sixth grader. So, hardly a teenager, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to the teenager now, and I said, so how do you think? What are you thinking about yourself and how you're doing with mom and dad's expectations and stuff like that? And he said to me, I just can't do anything right. So that was the thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I then said, so, well, how do you feel about that? I feel sad. I feel frustrated. I feel like a failure.
Mm.
I then said, okay, tell me about your body. What do you feel physically? He said, I'm exhausted. I'm always tired. I don't want to go out. I just want to be in my room, right? So low energy. So motivation, obviously, no motivation, right? Like he avoids his chores. He's not motivated to do his homework. He starts to procrastinate. He started binge watching or like playing too many games or playing games like when he wasn't supposed to be playing games. And I said, so, okay, so you ended up avoiding, so that was the behavior, avoiding all of the stuff that you needed to do because you were feeling no motivation and you were procrastinating. And so, of course, what is
Yeah.
mom the most frustrated about with him is his low grades, right? So, so it's interesting how in a family system, it starts with just a thought and how it can influence the entire family system through this self-fulfilling prophecy. So, of course, with me, now it's let's switch it around. So I took mom through a theoretical exercise of a change of perspective. So I said, all right, how about we start this time with, instead of I feel inadequate as a parent, let's start with I'm still learning about myself as a parent. Okay. She was game. She was like, all right, I'll try, you know. I said, all right, how does that feel to you? I am still learning about myself as a parent. How does that feel to you? She said, well, I feel like I can cut myself some slack.
Mm.
And I can like breathe a little bit more because there's space. I said, okay. And how do you feel in your body? She goes, I'm still stressed, but I feel calmer, but it feels like I can do something about it.
No.
Okay. So now talk to me about your motivation. She said, well, now I'm curious. I want to think about what I can still learn and where I can go to learn it. I said, okay. So then if you were to act on that, what would that look like? And she said, well, I saw these classes and there was this course. And then she starts to talk about a book that she saw on Amazon that she wanted to read. And that would be something that would be a positive thing to talk about in the like family dinners or when they're together as a family. And so I said, what do you think the likely results of that might be? She said, I just think that it would open ideas in the family and everybody's knowledge would be better, but I think I would just feel better. And I think everybody else could feel better.
Mm.
So, of course, I took it one step further. And then I said, all right, well, I'm going to go test this out on your son now. So let's see what happens. So I said to this little boy, this young man, I said, okay. So they did this exercise and I then gave him a coaching session. And I said, so they did this family, they just talked about the concept, right? And so I said, so what did you think? And his immediate response was, wow, it seems that my parents continue to learn even though they're old.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, they perceive us to be old, but hell yeah, we can still learn, right? I said, so how do you feel about that? His first thought was, he was just like, well, I got curious. So now we're starting to repeat things, right? I got curious and I felt safe. And I was kind of interested in how they were doing that because it was so negative the time before. So I said, okay, how do you feel in your body? He said, I feel it's safe and it's okay to not know everything. And then I said, so what does it motivate you to do? And he said, well, now I want to learn more about me too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So obviously I'm kind of distilling this a little bit, but I'd given them some exercises to do and stuff like that. And that started to make him curious because mom was talking about, oh, I did this little thing. Right. So I said, all right, so how, like, what do you want to do differently now? And his bottom line was, well, I, I want to do that thing that mom did, and I want to see what my results would be. And
Okay.
I want to try it,
Cool.
right? So I want to, so now I'm motivated. And at the end of it all, this is me now theorizing, is you've got a kid who is learning to become self-aware. His emotional intelligence is going up, got more self-regulation starts end up happening with better performance in general, right? So that whole energy and atmosphere of the stress and the nervous system, like overtaking the family, now is replaced with curiosity and learning and making space for, right?
Hmm.
So what do you think of that as a mom?
Well, I mean, me personally, you talking to me or to our listeners?
You.
I love it because what you get to do is you get to work with not only the parent, you get to work with the child, you get to work with everyone, and that's where it's beneficial because it becomes a family, it becomes a community in a sense. And when you get everyone involved to help the child, I think it's one of the best things to do. But let me ask you,
Yeah.
so when you're talking to when you're putting a protocol or plan in place with the parent, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't go exactly how you want it, I would assume. I mean, in this case, it's just funny to hear the terminology about being old and but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how our thought process is different. But you sometimes end up turning out probably teaching more of the parent something than the child. Does it work out like that?
It
It's kind
absolutely
of like,
works out that way. Yeah.
oh, I never thought of it that way.
It really
Oh,
works out that way. It's like I always think of Caesar, the dog whisperer. He always
yes.
says, "I don't train dogs, I train humans." Right? A
Yes.
lot of the times when a child is completely blocked and what parents would
Sure.
quote unquote say uncoachable, it's often if the parents are open to being coached, then they are the ones who can make a attitudinal and a motivational shift, because parents are motivated to do the best for their kids. They didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to have these kids and give them the most miserable life ever, right? We don't, that's just not how it works. But we this age, Gen Zs, they were brought into self-awareness into this world, and your generation kids are already born self-aware in this world, and they're just exposed to so much, they know so much more, whereas in our days it was like ignorance was bliss, but we have to catch up and evolve so that we're staying on track with these kids. And it's so acutely apparent to me how they watch us so carefully. How many times do you hear your kids, oh mom, I remember when, and you're like, I have no memory of that whatsoever, and it's like
Hmm.
the one thing you did not want them to remember about you. It's like that acute watching. They don't watch for the regular of every day, they watch for the irregular of the day. That's the stuff that sticks with them. So every opportunity, and I go back to the beginning of like talking about you know when I coach new coaches, or
Hmm.
when I am coaching parents or teenagers, I have to be on my own self-awareness game, right? What's my
Yeah.
thinking? I was teaching a cohort a couple of weeks ago, and I could feel myself. I could feel my attitude wanting to become defensive when they were giving feedback on something, and that visceral, just like biology response is so automatic that if you're not self-aware, it just happens before you even know it. And I think the clue when we become wiser and older and hopefully a little bit more intelligent is for us to be able to pause that time for a split second and go, wait a minute, I'm shifting into this mode. Stop, pause, move back, right? Step back. What is my purpose here? And I notice, just like
Mhm.
all of us parents, when you're tired, when you're stretched too thin, when you're not taking care of yourself, that is more likely to happen than you actually being conscious and awake while you are parenting or teaching or coaching or whatever, right? And so it goes back to self-awareness, going back to self-care, and self-care also, like, it's not the sexy stuff. You got to learn, you got to be able to do the unsexy stuff big time.
I love it.
Yeah.
The unsexy stuff. I love how you say that. It's so true. Wow.
Yeah, I'm doing self-care today. I'm gonna go get my nails done. Yeah, no, that's
I
nuts.
did that, but 2 weeks ago. Felt so good.
Good. Yeah. And, the bonus is when you do that, then you should be thinking about those things like, you know, I get great nails. How do I get to be a better version of myself inside of me moving outwards, right? So they say parenting is an inside job going outwards, not an outside job coming inwards. And yeah, that's a new thing for me every single day. I swear. There's not a single day that goes by that I've met with a client and I'm like, okay, rinse, wash, repeat. No, or wash, rinse, repeat. No, just does not happen that way. So with parenting, same thing, right?
The challenges. Oh my goodness. And now with back to school, I know your kids are back to school. Mine don't go back till next week. You're up in the Northeast. Yeah. So you've already made that transition. How does that feel? Because that's it's the fall. Must
Yeah,
feel good. Your kids are like back to school.
I'm kind of just watching the school communications down here in Georgia and in other places where they've already started schools. And it feels to me like the cadence in schools it's coming back. Like, you know, um, kids are asking to go watch the football games and, want to meet up with their friends. So that social aspect that was missing for so long, and the nervousness and the anxiety that teenagers had about the social scene at school, I'm feeling, because I work in one particular school here pretty often, so I often go in just to watch and observe and feel the vibe. And there's definitely a different vibe in the school compared to this time last year, when people were just coming back from, somewhat, you know, in school, somewhat virtual, blah blah blah, all the COVID stuff. But I feel like the kids' resiliences and confidences and awarenesses are kind of, they're stepping back up again. They're coming back into themselves. So I'm feeling optimistic. I am feeling optimistic, and I'm feeling like, COVID or not, there's just a general better resilience and ways to adapt in and around situations.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so, feeling pretty optimistic about all of that, Jill.
Yeah. Oh, good. I love it. I love it. I think next week I'll feel a little better too once my kids are off to school. But you seem a lot like more like calm, peaceful these
Really? Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, well, maybe it's the excitement of getting your nails done.
I know, right?
Well,
Exactly.
and now that school started, I mean, you're also working with children though. Are you helping them through school as well in a sense? Because that's a lot of it, right? Kids go back to school, they're struggling. And
Yeah.
do you, I mean, not that you're helping with their work in a sense, but explain to me the process now when kids go back to school. Is it like a busy
Yeah.
season for you?
A lot of the work now for them, or the challenge, is the time management and the organization skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So understanding their schedules, learning the time management, chunking out their time with their extracurriculars and stuff like that. So I find myself working kind of hands-on with parents and their kids to try to get like a symbiotic relationship in the household between, working parents and then the kids' extracurriculars, and kind of working in between all of that stuff. That's a lot. And then the other is uh, in high school, there's a lot of schedule change, like angst that is going on. So I'm working with helping them facilitate and advocate for themselves around getting the subjects and the schedules that they want. For elementary and middle schoolers, it's a little bit easier because things are still so structured, but as kids are going to college and trying to get settled and, going to dorms and dealing with cockroaches and things for the first time, you can kind of see their eyes are like, oh, this is the world, right? So it's just kind of helping them get perspective and not like throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of everything they've built up until now. It's just like
exactly. Yeah.
We're leveling up to the next phase. So that's the majority of the stuff that we're working with parents, because the parents have overwhelm. And then, of course, like what we were talking about earlier on, it kind of trickles down, and then, it kind of creates this stress ball in the family. But and also lots of single parents trying to navigate with their kids and, after school and things like that. So still stress, but kind of an optimistic stress, kind of like, okay, we're gonna make this work, things are gonna be okay. There's a scaffolding that we can work with, whether it's the time management or the organization or chunking your time, or figuring out how we actually get to spend time together, because most families only get to spend like 45 minutes together in the evening, some not even that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
All right. So we still have 3 minutes left, Liezel. What else do you want to share with us, darling?
Yeah, I wanted to share some great news. We just hired a new coach into our practice.
Congrats.
And her name is Cameron O'Brien, and she is a past journalist, kind of long work in journalism, and is really passionate about working with youth as well. So we're busy getting her onboarded and organized, and starting to move clients over so that she can work with them. And it's a super exciting time for us. And this means that a lot of our group work will start to move to her, so that we have more parent workshops and cohort sessions and things like that, maybe for like parents who specifically have kids with ADHD and autism, or kids who have those high performers who are burnt out and overly extended. We'll kind of split those kinds of things up. And yeah, so we kind of keep moving on and keep trying to reach out to the world, so that we're changing and making people's lives just a little bit at a time.
Love it. Thank you so much. All right. So let's do this. Let's find out the best way we can contact you. I know it's myteenlifecoach.com and the number 770-235-8202.
That's right. And you can find us on social media at I think it's Liezel Teen Coach. Or Coach Liezel is on Facebook. On Instagram, it's My Teen Coach. And on TikTok, I think it's My Teen Life Coach. So if you just Google My Teen Life Coach,
Google, you pop up everywhere. That's what I do. Just come up. Thank you so much, sweetheart. You have a great day. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Have a good Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home.
that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.